Joining Meg tonight are Somaiya Daud, Rory Power, Sass and Maggie Tokuda-Hall, all with new books, all amazing humans and writers. We're going to hear from everybody and about their books in kind of a panel style format. I'll be asking questions and then we'll go around, sometimes in an order that we understand, sometimes in an order that perhaps will leave us wondering, all sure to be fun. Thank you all again for joining us. I think authors, first of all, welcome and congratulations on your books. Maybe we can all start with a brief intro, say something about who you are, and then talk about your new releases, what they're about, why you wrote them, all that good stuff. Meg, would it be okay if we started with you?
Yeah, I'm happy to kick off. So hi everybody, I'm Meg Elison. I'm an author and my new book is called Find Layla. It is my first young adult novel. It's my YA debut. I wrote it because I wanted to write about the kind of poverty I experienced as a kid, which, while not unique, was pretty unusual. And also the way that poverty influences the rest of your life chances, like how it changes the way you get bullied and how it changes what you can get away with and how it changes what kind of adult you get to become. It was a really difficult book. It's super personal, and I feel extremely naked about having it out in the world today. So congratulations to me.
Beautiful. Thank you, Meg, and congratulations. Thanks for bringing us all here together tonight, by the way. This is super awesome, and I'm excited to hear from everyone else. Maybe we can go next to Somaiya. Tell us, who are you and what is your book?
Hi, my name is Somaiya Daud. I am the author of the Mirage duology, which is Mirage and its sequel, which just came out at the beginning of this month, Court of Lions. And it tells the story of a girl named Amani who lives on a small moon orbiting a large planet that's been conquered in the last 20 years, and so she's living under occupation. And on the night of her coming of age ceremony, she's kidnapped by the Imperial Garda to the Imperial Palace on the main planet, because it turns out she looks exactly like the Imperial princess, who's half indigenous and half Imperial. And she gets trained up to be her body double and gets pulled into all sorts of all sorts of palace politics and royal politics and that sort of thing. It's cool. I really like it. So.
Thanks, Somaiya. That's amazing. I look forward to hearing more about it. And next, maybe we can go to Rory.
Yeah, I'm Rory Power. I wrote Wilder Girls, which came out last year, and oh my god, I have a copy of it. I'm so prepared. Murder Bodies Down, which came out this year. It is kind of like Sharp Objects by way of the X-Files. It's about a girl who's grown up with her mom in this small, isolated Nebraska town, and she doesn't know anything about her past. So one day she decides that she's going to find out, and she goes to her mom's old hometown, discovers some spooky goings on, regrets it, has a bad time, everything's a mess, there's corn, you get it. Like, that's the vibe. It's a lot about like intergenerational trauma and the way that we are shaped by our parents and their parents and how we're part of that pattern or how we're not. And I definitely relate, Meg, to feeling like something very personal is out in the world now, and like, oops, maybe I shouldn't have done that, but I did. So hopefully people buy it, and I'm rewarded.
Oh, you did it. It's in the world. Thank you. It's a good thing that it's in the world, and yeah, that's why we're here to celebrate. So congratulations, and thank you, Rory. Next, perhaps we can go to Adam.
Hi, I'm Adam Sass, and like Rory, I also have my book here, Surrender Your Sons. It's my debut. It comes out in 2 weeks. It is a YA thriller that is basically, I've called it a queer Lost meets Lord of the Flies. It is, it's a conversion therapy camp on a very mysterious, secluded island, very Agatha Christie. So it follows Connor Major, who is a gay boy from a small Midwestern town, and he finds himself having a very disastrous coming out, and is taken to this camp where he meets a dozen other queer kids like himself, and they decide that they are going to not only escape the camp, but also there is some mysterious goings on at this camp that they do not want found out. So not only are they going to escape, they're going to expose and shut them down. And I wrote it because I really wanted to just write a very queer victory revenge extravaganza. I really was just like, you know, we had seen conversion therapy stories, and I really wanted to do one that was honoring the experience, honoring conversion survivors, but was also a very wish fulfillment story. It gives a lot of victorious catharsis that you don't usually find in conversion therapy stories.
Thank you, Adam. I think you had us all at queer revenge extravaganza. Maggie, hi.
Yeah. Hey. I was lucky enough to have my debut come out right in what now is the beginning of the pandemic. The Mermaid, the Witch, and the Sea. It's a queer fantasy story that has all the things that are promised on the tin. Mermaids, a witch, the sea, and like Somaiya's story, an imperial palace and countries under occupation. But most importantly, I just wanted to use my time to point out to everyone, this is Find Layla. And you may or may not have noticed that it's dedicated to a Maggie, and that Maggie is me. I just wanted to make sure that we all focused on me for a second, because today Meg's book launch is really about me and the fact that her book is dedicated to me. So thank you for your time. I think we're done here.
Nobody I have ever dedicated a book to has made such a thing out of it, and this is really what I wanted, so thank you.
You got to choose wisely who you dedicate your books to, Meg.
Trying.
This was your mistake, is our point.
That wasn't my implication, for the record, Maggie. That's not what I meant there.
Maggie's getting my next dedications, for sure.
Who treats it with the gravity and pettiness that I wanted.
Okay, so questions. The next question is, or perhaps it's the first question, how do we see your ideal reader? Do you think about the different ways adults and kids read YA? And what does that mean to you when you're working on your books? And Maggie, perhaps we can start with you this time.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot lately because I write mostly YA, and I was like, man, what does that mean about me that I'm like, some part of my brain is still very much a teenager or finds that to be the most interesting point in time. And I think part of it's because young adult stories are always kind of by definition a coming of age story. And that doesn't end when you stop being of young adult age. And so I think when adult readers read young adult, they're looking either to have these moments of clarity and coming of age, help them understand something about their own coming of age that they might be in the middle of the process of, and reading it through the lens of a teenager can be really helpful for that. Or they're looking to be reminded of that really meaningful period of time in their life. And I don't think that that's any different than the way necessarily that a teenager does. It's all just an invitation to imagine a change in the way that you are, or the world is around you, and for better or for worse, you know, what that could look like. It's all one large imaginative exercise. And so I don't think about it in terms of like, ooh, a child is reading this. Does that mean I can't say the F word? Because I always just include the F words in the first draft. But I do think about it just in terms of like, what's the biggest moment of change in my main characters' lives, and how does that, like, how do I center the story around those moments? And that to me is what makes it young adult.
Interesting. Thank you, Maggie. Adam, perhaps you can field the question next.
Yeah. I really, like, my ideal reader when I was like writing this was like queers who go to Hot Topic. So but it was, which is very, it's listen, I will not go broke with that. So it was, that's like my haha answer, but my real answer really is, I was thinking of this as ideal reader being like someone like myself, because the journey that Connor takes in this, he's a white cis gay boy who at the start of the story is very isolated with his marginalization, where he thinks like this is like the most suffering, and then he is taken to this place where he is finding a diverse collection of other queer kids, and he realizes that, not really realizes, but he basically encounters people who have been at this camp for way longer than he has, who have suffered very different degrees of things. And so really my thing I wanted to do with this book was show the queer community sort of as a cross section, because it really is like showing like how you take really siloed, isolated queer kids and how do they naturally community build together. So that really was my ideal reader, is either a kid like Connor who kind of needs to hear that very early on about this is how the queer community works best and how it should be all the time and what it should be striving for, or you know, at least people who would who are not like Connor, who would maybe appreciate that that's all still part of the community.
Thank you, Adam. Rory.
Well, I love what you said, Maggie, about putting the slurs in the first draft anyway. I had, in Burn Our Bodies Down, I think I had like 94 in the first draft, and my editor, usually she lets me do whatever I want with Buck, but like, sorry, am I allowed to? I just did anyway, so. But this time she was like, that's maybe too many. Just like get it down to like under 50 maybe. And I think we got it down to 18. I'm very proud of myself for that because it was really hard.
Under 50 fucks is an amazing tagline, by the way, in case you need a new one.
We do. I think there's room for it right at the top. I'll send that in. A fun email.
Yeah, just a title. Yeah.
Oh, I do need a new idea, so there it is.
Welcome. I want the dedication.
Exactly. There we go. As far as a like ideal reader goes, I feel like I've run into trouble trying to write to everyone before. Like in first drafts especially, I'll catch myself like going in these different directions and being like, hey, pull it in. Like, do you care about that? Because if you don't, people will be able to tell. And now I think my ideal reader is like me, but 2 years ago, so that I'm not yet able to hate my own writing. So like me, who's still interested in all this stuff, but someone who hasn't been working on it at all, so I could read it and be like, oh shit, you're gonna write that? That's cool. So I just kind of write to like what I think I would want to read if I were pulling the book off the shelf, and with varying degrees of success. But I love the idea about writing to a complex queer community, because I think that's something I definitely want to reflect in my own work, and whether that's complexity via like the kinds of relationships that queer girls have with each other, or like the idea of a queer girl being single as queer representation, which is what happens in Burn Our Bodies Down. Like, she doesn't kiss anyone, but she's still queer. And that's something I wanted to reflect on the page, and I hope readers like vibe with that. So professional, vibing. Anyway, that's me.
That's awesome, Rory. Thank you so much, Somaiya.
Like Rory, sorry, you got my to-do list above my head. But like Rory, I really write to like the 17-year-old version of me. So I think about the books that she liked to read and the books that she would have wanted to read that she didn't have access to. Because I was a huge fantasy and sci-fi reader when I was in high school, and a lot of the books that I read featured white women. And so I think about like what are the stories that that version of me would have wanted to read, and also what are the stories that she probably needed and didn't know that she needed when she was 17. And that would have been illuminating or liberating for her to have encountered. I'm talking about this girl like she's a separate person from me. But that's really who I have in mind, because I was doing an event with Christine Day, and she said she has this Ray Bradbury quote that's like, it's something like, the bigger your audience, the more diluted your writing, and the more specific your audience, the more like targeted your writing will be. And so I always think of like that girl sitting in her bedroom in Alexandria, Virginia, listening to Dave Matthews Band, and what she would have wanted to I realized you could check out CDs from the library, and so I checked out Dave Matthews Band's What You Are, and that's all I listened to for one summer while I read Kate Forsyth's like Celtic fantasy series.
What a combo.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, it's a really strong like sensory memory, and anytime I hear "What You Are," I'm immediately flung back to that summer.
Renting a CD, I love that. I miss Borders' like music CD listening
Oh
station.
yeah.
I would just stand there, yeah.
Yeah. Same. Before the iPod.
Yeah, before
Yes.
I used to check out CDs from the library and rip them to my hard drive.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'll give this back tomorrow. I've got it forever.
Yeah.
That's piracy, kids. Don't do that.
Well, they can't. They don't know what a CD-ROM is anymore.
No,
Most laptops don't have CD-ROM drives.
Physical media.
Meg, do you wanna finish this?
Yeah.
Us out on the question. Yeah, I think.
I'm 100% writing for my former self. I really wanted to read books about poverty in the way that I was experiencing it, or at least in a way that like acknowledged what I was experiencing, and it just never happened. Like I remember being extremely jazzed when the family on Roseanne got their power cut off like for one episode for one day because it was so unspeakable. So yeah, I'm writing for really poor kids who mostly get their books from the library and want to know that they're not the only ones going through this. And also for adults who have that experience, who carry it with them and have no idea how to talk about it. Because you can't really bring it up. Bringing it up in conversation makes your friends uncomfortable. There's nowhere to put it. We don't know how to deal with it, even when it's way over and we're all safe. So it's primarily for me. It's always for me.
Thank you.
Was the kiss just now for you too?
Sorry, there's a spider on my desk. I was gently pushing it away from me instead of toward me.
Leave meeting. Yeah.
He can't come through the screen. You're fine.
I can't take that chance.
Okay, thank you all for your answers on that question. We have another question, which is as follows. How do we, wait, that's the first question. Second question is, did you write a book that your younger self needed? And how does that change with the times and also with our expectations? I thought we could start with Rory on this one. That's okay.
Yeah, I think I think about this a lot, and I think technically, yes, I did write the book that I needed when I was like 17, but the chances that I would have read it when I was 17 were very low. Like if somebody had handed me the book and been like, you need this, I would have been like, get away from me. Like, don't tell me what to do. So I feel like I write for someone who's like already been through the thing that it's about and who can just like find some solace in that, and is probably like a little bit older. Yeah, because I think teen me, like she could, like it would have been great if she read this book, but like no, she is very stubborn and had to get through it. But I think that perspective, just like the connection, is something that so many of you guys have already touched on, and I think is really, really amazing, and I feel like is in me somewhere, but like willfully suppressed.
Nice. Thank you, Rory. Somaiya? I know you touched on this a little bit already.
Yeah, I mean...
Did you do it?
Did I do it? Yeah. Yeah, I did.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, I didn't have a strange upbringing, but I find often when a lot of my colleagues of color talk about sort of like not seeing themselves in media, I grew up in like a really conservative Muslim enclave, and like the thing about conservative religious communities is they often like bootstrap their own industries. So like we had like an indie Muslim publishing press, and so I read a lot of YA featuring Muslim characters that was really like dogmatic. But I never felt like there was never a representational gap, because they also have like their own super tiny animation studios, and so I grew up watching like Muslim American cartoons and Adam's World, which was this horrible yellow puppet with like a kufi who would teach you about nature. Yeah. So when I wrote Mirage, it was really more about like once I had like gone to public school, like what is the thing that Somaiya would have wanted to read, and what are the communities she would have intersected or wanted to intersect with, or like should have known about, or whatever. And also like I love my own books. I feel like that's almost kind of a faux pas to be like, my books are awesome, but I fucking love them.
Oh, I love hearing authors do that. I mean, everybody has the right to hate their shit and like drag their books, but I love hearing people say they like their own work. So I'm glad you said it.
I really like the world that I created, and I like spending time with it, even at the end when it became really hard. Um, and I think that like 17-year-old me would have super vibed with it, to steal Rory's word. She would have really vibed with Moroccan Star Wars.
That is awesome. Adam, maybe you can answer as well.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, growing up, like I always loved like suspense stories and like horror. I watched like R-rated movies from like a very early age. This was something that was like big part of my life from like 10 onward, and it was kind of just really just the kind of the thing that like I really grew up on. And so it was not just like wanting to see like put queer people in these stories that I'd already kind of made. Like the person I was writing for really as it changed, it started off as like, I'm gonna write this extravaganza of queer like revenge and and then as the more I wrote this was something that I wrote and revised. I did like 7 gut renovations of this over 7 years before it's hitting the shelves. Like this started in 2013, and so like it started in this very very like ambitious state, and then it did get more and deeper, and the more I interviewed conversion survivors, and the more I just kind of like reflected and got older, I realized I was writing this for me, but I was writing this for me who wanted permission to, I just wanted a book that was like, this is permission to just be angry. Like this is just like, it's an angry book. A lot of the stuff I'd been like seeing and reading, was, definitely more like positive. This was more like 2015, and things were like marriage equality, we got it, and things were sort of trending in this sort of direction. And then there was still this like unresolved, like crusty, angry stuff I was dealing with, and I kind of wanted this permission slip to just write something where it was like, just pissed off, and I grew up angry kid, and then I kind of at some point turned into like a pleaser, just to kind of make things like smoothed over and this and that. And this was something that like the longer I wrote this book, the more I realized that like, oh, this kid is super a pleaser, and we're about to like Lord of the Flies like deconstruct this and make him just a revolutionist.
Thank you, Adam. Maggie.
So I wrote The Mermaid, the Witch, and the Sea for like a super specific kid. Her name is Claire. I worked in a independent bookstores for like 1,000 years, and in that time I got to know this kid named Claire, who was this like intense, amazing reader. Like when she was 10 years old, I gave her the arc of Hunger Games, which I know is like a little young. It's fine. She was ready. And like she learned the word juxtaposed from it, and I told that to Suzanne Collins, and she was like, that word didn't make the final cut. I can't believe like she knew about it, etc. It was like a whole thing. Anyway, Claire's amazing, and also
sorry, I was wondering if it didn't make it because they thought the vocab was too high for the age group. Yes?
Exactly why.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, I was like realizing I was getting digressed, and I was like, stop telling that story. No one cares. But the point being that Claire was this like incredible, attentive, imaginative reader who liked big fantasy stories with like murder and kissing and magic and rules, which I liked as well. But at the time when she was 12 years old, none of those stories were queer. Or it was like Melinda Lowe or nothing. That was like what you had. And she loved Melinda Lowe. And so when she was like 13 years old, I started writing what would become The Mermaid, the Witch, and the Sea, because I was like, I'll fix this. I'll write you this book. And she's 21 now, so I kind of missed her childhood. But but while I was writing it, I started sort of slowly realizing I was writing it for myself as well. And it sort of forced me into confrontation with my own queerness, because I had like hooked up with a lot of women, but I was like, oh, I'm straight. That's just Lisa. Don't worry about that. So, writing to like
so many of you.
Yes, I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry we're like this. And I went to an all-women's college, and this was happening, and there was sort of this idea that women like me were sort of toxic, and so I was like, ooh, like I'm not going to be somebody who's bi until graduation, or like a lesbian until graduation. Like I'm just straight, and sometimes I hook up with women. Like I'm just slutty, whatever. But writing this book really helps me sort of like put a name to it for the first time. And I didn't anticipate that being meaningful, but it was actually like a very wonderful thing to sort of name what was happening and what my own experience was. And so right now I'm working on the sequel to it, and I feel like I'm writing this one like very explicitly for me and the teenager that I was. It's got more violence in it just by merit of being a second book, but and you know, conflict being escalated. But I like to think that it's a lot funnier too. So anyway.
Now funnier and with more violence.
Yeah, it's hilarious murder.
Thank you, Maggie. Meg, finish this off here.
Yeah. Like I said, I wanted to write it for my younger self and for people whose experience was a lot like mine, but the hell of being a super old millennial is that the business of being a kid is completely different now than it was when I was an actual kid. And it's impossible to ignore that. I couldn't write about my own adolescence without backdating the book by a lot and making it weird for young adults now. So I had to write it in the modern day in which kids have TikTok.
Meg, your childhood is
Also, I
historical
have
fiction
TikTok,
now,
like-
just so you know.
Yes. So I had to think about my worst experiences with the internet as an adult, which have been notable, and then imagine what it would have been like if I'd had to endure that when I had a barely formed sense of self and really like not good mental hygiene, not good habits around limiting other people's ability to comment on my life just willy-nilly and tell me who I am. And that's terrifying. Thinking about the way kids deal with each other constantly. Like, you can't just leave school and not talk to the people you fucking hate anymore. Like, they're all on the internet. So incorporating that into the book made it for another generation. I hate that phrase. I hate it so much. And yeah, it's historical fiction now. So you can't get away with those dodges anymore. You can't be like, oh, this was the 90s and we didn't have cell phones. Nobody's falling for that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Meg.
Send them all to an island like I did and just be like, oh no, no
I did
phone.
that too. It's a good trick. It's
Amazing.
classic. Also, in Burn Our Bodies Down, she just straight up breaks her phone. And it's like, okay, the end.
That's it. Oh no, the
I just
phone's
don't want to
going.
do
Yeah.
God.
Meg, I want to stay with you for the next question, which is
Sure.
what scene in your book was the most fun to write, and why?
Oh, I love, like Adam, I love revenge. Revenge scenes are incredibly satisfying to write, and I love a good monologue. I try not to Sorkin myself, but there are moments where it is appropriate.
Just don't use the same line like 4 times over your different books.
I know.
She does all the time.
Don't start every monologue with, let me get this straight, reporter girl, or something.
Oh no. Stop.
Always does that.
I have so many questions for that man.
I really wanted the power of a revenge monologue, but not the unbelievable outcome of it. You know, in a Sorkin or another overblown monologuist's world, you say the perfectly squelching thing, and then no one ever fucks with you again, and it's way better from then on because they respect you now. And that's not how, in my experience, it works, even if you are very well spoken. So I loved writing my main character's big revenge scene when she turns the tables on her bullies and she explains to them that they don't exist, and neither does she, and none of this is real, and none of this matters, because it's like a deeply 14-year-old nihilist thing to say, but it's also it really is evocative of her entire experience. Like, she gets to actually say what she's feeling for the first time, and goddamn, I love revenge, so that's gotta take the cake.
Oh yeah. Somaiya?
For me, it was every scene where Maram was present in the second book, really. I mean, I feels bad because she's the secondary main character. She's not the actual main character, but she is my favorite character. Sorry. She's so mean, and she's so defensive, and she's so unwilling to be vulnerable, and we vibe a lot. Maram and I are really similar. So anytime I got to write a scene where she was like snapping at somebody or being mean because she didn't want to be vulnerable, or being dragged into vulnerability against her will was like really fun, and they were some of the easiest scenes to write and the most cathartic scenes to write. Yeah.
That's right.
In the first book, she like sets a hunting raptor on somebody, and that was also really fun to write.
Nice.
Yeah, I listened to that interview that you gave about the different styles of falconry and like the idea of sewing eyes shut, and like I had no idea what a blood sport that was. That's such an ideal weapon for a villain.
Yeah, well, yeah. So it's the European. It was the European way of breeding your falcons, because wild falcons never acclimated to humans, so you would have to seal their eyes shut in order so that they wouldn't attack you, and they would only attack like quarry.
Like yikes, big yikes.
Yeah. Birds are great.
Well noted to take your wild eagle's eyes shut, right?
There's a professor, sorry, this is a little bit of a divergence, but there's a professor in my department who used to falcon. He used to be a falconer, and he had to give it up because one of his falcons imprinted on him and then attacked his wife because she thought that the wife was moving in on her mate.
Oh my God.
And it was like a huge falcon. So he had to like give up the sport of falconry because this falcon thought that they were married.
Oh my God.
Could you imagine when the other woman's a fucking bird?
How do you compete? You don't have claws.
Oh my God. It's me. I'm the falcon. I am trying way too hard.
R.I.P.
She's a possessive bitch.
Maggie, what was your favorite scene?
I wish I'd written a scene with a falcon imprinting on someone.
Next one.
I think I have to go with the revenge theme. There's a scene, and it's very late in the book, so I don't want to spoil it, but where somebody from sort of the Imperial group completely underestimates a prisoner that they have and acts foolishly about it, and that prisoner exacts like sort of delicious revenge after being held, and it's like especially meaningful between the two of them because they're both from the same colonized country, but one is really young and doesn't remember the process of colonization, doesn't remember the violence, doesn't remember what it was like, and the older person does, and so there's like tension between them that way, and that was a very fun scene to write. They're both not like the main characters of the first book, but are much more central in the second book, and I think that was the scene where I realized like the two of them had so much more like juice left in them.
Very nice. Adam, what was your favorite scene, and why?
My favorite scene to write was any scene where I was writing one of my favorite villains in the book. Her name is, they call her Miss Manners. And she is one of the counselors there, and I describe her as kind of basically like an evil beauty queen judge. Like she runs. They have like different professors who run like different courses, and she runs this like sort of evil home ec course where everybody has to perform home life behavior rules very well, and then
I'm getting notes of, but I'm a cheerleader.
That's what
for
I was
100.
thinking too.
It is. So it's just like, but I'm a cheerleader, but just like murdery dangery, crank it up.
I want this book so bad.
She's one of these characters who like kind of floats in and out of the story, and like I kind of like in my head saw her as Jaws. Like every time she shows up, it's a big problem. Like so she goes away for a little bit, but then she comes back and it's like a huge problem for everybody. Everybody's in serious danger when she shows up. And I liked her because I have like kind of like a quartet of villains who kind of run the camp, and each one of them like has their own like backstory, and you know, here's what drew me to the camp, this is why I do what I do, and it's all complex, and there is a scene that I had so much fun writing where it was like monologue-y and this and that, but I just was like, this isn't working, and I cut it down to like just one line, and like Connor just looks at her and is like, you just like hurting people. Like, you just like hurting us, like, and then it turns, because we've already seen like so many backstories, and we kind of like are expecting like, oh, why does she do this? And she's like, she just likes hurting queer people, and she does not deny it. So it was a confrontation scene that I do enjoy.
I love that, especially in the age of Trump, where we're realizing that we've always been writing our villains to be too complicated.
Yeah. Yeah, God,
are,
isn't
like,
that the
just
Yes.
horrible idiots?
Yeah, this was like post, like, I did so many revisions on this after, like, with each passing year in this administration, it got more and more easy to write, to just go, they're just here to hurt you. Like, that's it. Like, that, they're just about it. And I don't really need to come up with a reason, and it wasn't like it like simplified it for me. It just, in fact, it just really focused it into just like, nope, they kind of like hurting you, and the more you push back, the more their guilt just like compounds, and so they either have to like completely fess up to themselves, which they can't do, or they gotta 100% commit, and that is what escalates the situation at the camp.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you. Rory, what was your favorite scene? Why?
I have two that I really love. The first is when Margot, the main character, she's met this girl, Tess, who is from this small town that she's like very new to, and Tess is like popular and bored, and she like, if they had a homecoming queen, she would be a homecoming queen, and Margot is like, oh my God, you're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, like, look at your ponytail, what? But then later Tess does this thing, and Margot's like, oh my God, you like suck, like I'm not into you, like we could be friends, but this is not what, like, the attraction is gone. And I just liked writing that. Like, it was fun because that happens, like, you know, you see someone and then they open their mouth and you're like, oh, okay. I just wanted to put that in there and be like, look, it's fine if you think the girl's really pretty, but like, you wish you would stop talking, because I also wish that I would stop talking a lot of the time. So I wanted to be relatable. But I also really, there's this one scene that I like clung to with my bare hands, and it made its way through revisions, even though I was worried it would get cut. And it's like 2/3 of the way through the book. Margot's with her grandmother, and they've had a fight, and her grandmother's like, okay, you know what? Come with me. I want you to try this dress on. And Margot puts on the dress, and then her grandmother's like, oh, you know what? I just remembered what that's from. It's the dress that your mom wore when she went to the clinic to almost get an abortion from you. And
Jesus.
she's like wearing the dress. She's like, cool. Takes off the dress, leaves. But I just like loved it a lot, and I wanted to keep it, and I got to keep it.
In another reality, you're a stain on this dress.
God.
It's a rough time.
Woof.
Thank you, Rory. That's awesome. I'm seeing a time that we have about we're at about quarter to the hour, so I just want to say, if you have a question for any of these brilliant writers, humans, please throw it in the chat, and I'm sure they'll be happy to answer it. Meanwhile, I'm just going to go forward with the questions we have, which the next one is Meg, I want to ask you, do you dream cast a film or TV version of your books in your head? Do you have an actor in mind for any of the leading roles? And we need you to talk like Hulu is listening.
I so want Hulu to buy this thing. So normally I do this all the time. I just get super drunk and talk about who should play who in my science fiction series, because that's easy and fun and great. And then I go and make a mistake, like writing a book about a 14-year-old girl, and I realize that I don't know any child actors' names, like, at all. I started freaking out about this because someone asked me in an interview the other day, and I was like, what about those kids from Stranger Things? How old are they now? And they're like 17 or 18. Like, it's so over.
They're renting cars.
They are. They drive and vote and ruin their lives. So I've been thinking about that little girl who's on Big Little Lies, and she was also in Paranormal Activity. God, I knew her name 10 minutes ago.
Oh, she's Amabella in Big Little Lies?
Yes, Annabella. I don't know the actress's name, but she's about the right age, and she has a lot of intensity for someone as young as she is. So she could play Layla, and beyond that, I would be really worried if I knew a bunch of child actors' names. Honestly, it's probably best.
That is hilarious.
But also, no one is actually cast to their age. So,
I was
like,
gonna
the
say,
Stranger Things people
In
could.
Hollywood, you could have like 35-year-olds playing a 14-year-old.
Luke
Yeah,
Perry
no
played
problem.
a high school student when he was like 40.
He's like 40. I think that like warped my sense of reality when I was a teenager because you see these extremely self-possessed and very sexually experienced 30-year-olds and you're like, yeah, that's what high school's going to be like, and that's a lie. So anybody else who's better at this game than me, please take it away.
Yeah, maybe I'll just keep this one open. Anybody who wants to weigh in on that one, please feel free to do that. Do you cast your final?
I haven't read it yet, but hearing the description of Miss Manners, I feel like Nicole Kidman should play her.
Oh, yeah.
No,
like the icy.
Yes, do the flip side of Boy Erased, her Boy Erased character. Yeah, that's 100%. I saw like Sarah Michelle Gellar because I was like, I really want that like evil the first like version of Buffy to like just take that on out.
Folks, Adam Sass is the world's biggest Buffy fan, by the way.
Meg and I know each other from the Buffy podcast, Slayer Fest 98.
You guys made me think of Buffy earlier when you were talking about ways to get rid of people's cell phones, because one of my friends who's like a huge Buffy superfan made the excellent point that I can never get out of my brain, which is that 90% of Buffy's problems could be solved with a cell phone.
Yes.
So many.
Where is Xander right now? He needs to know this is happening. Meanwhile, Xander tied up at a construction site.
They like made her weirdly like not cool with the cell phone. Like they like kind of wrote it in that she just was like, I don't understand it, I don't like it, which is
Just like she's bad at driving and guns.
Yeah.
It gets around a lot of things.
I will talk about Buffy forever, so we should move on.
Sorry, I know.
I also don't know anybody's, like, I don't think in faces very well, so I never have any real idea, but I've decided that I'm going to use this potential Hulu adaptation as a way to meet Alicia Vikander. So, like, she's going to be in it. I don't know what she's doing, but she's there and I'm saying hello. That's what's going on.
I could see her as Margot. That's not a bad idea.
She's, like, again, with the age thing, like, this is fine. It's good.
She's really short. It's fine.
And I can talk to her, and so that's all we need.
This is just a vehicle for an introduction.
Yeah. Everything I do is just aimed toward Alicia Vikander. Okay, if you see this ever, Alicia, I promise it's not creepy. I just like you a lot.
I have an actress
Anybody
in
here
mind.
has any connections, to anybody, any of these
Just
dream
hit me up.
folks, hook us up. We need connections,
Figure it out.
I have an actress in mind for the lead role in my second book, and I literally wrote it with her in mind, and I cannot ever meet her because I'm just going to be a super creep. And be like, I wrote this book for you.
I wrote it for you. And she's like, oh, God.
She's definitely going to take out a TRO if we ever meet.
Well,
Do you know who should play Connor Major?
My gosh, so Connor Major is basically if we got a time machine and got Brad Renfro from The Client, get him.
Oh, God.
Like just a country sass mouth. So like if any of those It kids or Stranger Things kids can just be like super tart and grouchy and little. He's like very little, so you gotta get that.
Just have everybody else stand on a box.
Yeah. Exactly. Everybody. Yeah, that's the thing. Get Nicole Kidman, get someone very tall. Everybody else should just be very tall.
Somaiya, do you imagine doing like the Parent Trap thing with one actress playing both characters, or do you think about like it should be twins, or
It would have to be one character or one actress just because there are no English-speaking Moroccan actresses out there. So, like, once we got one, that's it.
that role is going to make somebody's career? They're going to be like, for me.
But if any of you guys watch that show on Netflix, Elite, which is like a Spanish YA show, there's a Moroccan actress on it, and I actually sent her picture to the cover artist for Court of Lions. So if you compare Amanda and Marv's faces and her face,
You don't understand.
They look remarkably
like
similar.
Tiny little itch at the back of my face. Thank you. Oh,
Yeah, and she's gorgeous and lovely, even though like I hate everything about that show. But I was like, all right, she's in popular media. she's also not a light-skinned Moroccan. Here. Yeah, so I'm sure a lot of people are like looking at the cover going like, why do they look so familiar?
You know, a little note on the inside like Google.
I always hope that some author somewhere has this conversation and the actors people are obsessive about name searching and they see it and they're like, you know, this role was written for you and that's Hollywood picking up. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
Keep planting those seeds, Elison.
So we got our first question, and this one is from Molly. Molly wants to know, could you please ask, and I presume this is for any of the authors or for all of them. Molly, please correct me if I'm wrong. But what Easter eggs should readers keep their eyes peeled for when reading your book?
Oh.
I literally did write Easter eggs into Surrender Your Sons, and it's for anybody who's a Mulholland Drive fan, as it's my #1 movie of all time.
Oh my god.
So I wrote it in a way that it could be basically same universe. So there is a reading of it where it is the same universe. So yes, so there are 2 clues that it takes place in the same universe as Mulholland Drive, and one of them is an address, which is, you will hear an address, and it is Naomi Watts' apartment.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That is such a deep cut.
Question was right for me. It's a deep cut, but deepest cut is the best cut.
Mine is anything from the Star Wars prequel trilogy, because I'm one of those rare people who loves the prequel trilogy, and I literally had to stop myself from there's like a confession scene in the second book, and I had to stop myself from like reproducing the scene from Attack of the Clones where Padme is like, I've been dying every day since you came back into my life, which is such a terrible line, but it's so good. And I like, my friends literally had to be like, that's called stealing, and George Lucas will come and take all of your money, of which I have so very little anyway. So
you have good friends who are looking out for you.
At least I have a Phantom Menace one in the book that I'm writing right now. I have an "It's working"
Yes!
from little Anakin with the pod racer. Listen, I was the exact right age when that movie came out. It was made for me. I was obsessed with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I get a lot of shit from like hardcore Star Wars fans who are just like, how can you possibly like them? And I'm like, the problem is that you don't have an aesthetic eye and you don't care about costumes.
Yeah.
That's why you don't like them.
The prequels kill the rest of the entire franchise in costumes. There's no content.
So
Not
good.
even.
Yeah.
That orange outfit from the first one, I think about on the regular when they're in space. She's like, "Space is cold, Annie," and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
My favorite is the one she's got. It's like a big feather dress, and then she's got like a hijab on with plumage.
Oh yeah.
It's a peacock. Yeah.
Yeah, and she's like looking out over
mustardy kind of.
She's like looking out over Coruscant, very very sad, with like the neon lights reflecting on her white makeup.
I expect to see you in a reproduction of that when you're up for the Hugo.
Absolutely not. No.
I think the only Easter eggy thing I did in Layla was I named one of Layla's teachers after one of my favorite feminist essayists, which I'm so square.
I feel like that's very Bay Area of you, though.
It is.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a teacher named Valenti, so there you go.
Listen, somebody's gonna clock that reference and love it.
Yeah.
I live for that.
Yeah.
I didn't put any references or Easter eggs in The Mermaid, the Witch, and the Sea, but I have a graphic novel coming out next year called Squad that has one that's a spoiler, but is a reference to Megan's Body, which I think is a perfect
Jennifer's
movie.
Body.
Sorry? Jennifer's Body. Sorry, I meant Megan Fox, Jennifer's Body.
Oh.
Anyway, sorry. I have a baby. Anyway, I didn't get much sleep last night.
Yep.
Jennifer's Body, which is a perfect movie. And so that's in the, because that's like a movie, or sorry, a book set in our sort of universe, like it's set in my hometown, and so it was like easier to work in references, whereas like in a high fantasy novel it's a little harder when like I was like, oh man, they can't say Adam's apple because they don't have Christianity, or like Abraham.
Oh yeah.
Fuck's sake.
I have this problem with guillotine where I was like, can I actually use the word guillotine because there's no Monsieur Guillotine
Good.
in a galaxy far, far away.
I will overthink that
guillotine.
so hard. Like, even just using a Latinate word, I'm like, there's no Rome, though. Like, what are you doing?
It's hard.
I think it's super hard.
This is why I don't world build. I'm just like, they go to an island, it's a jungle. They go, they fight.
Jurassic Park, you're all set.
Jurassic Park, yeah, I just do it.
Also, it's way early to get hype about Squad, but you guys, Squad is so good. Get hype. I can't wait.
Excited for this.
Okay, well, we're coming on the hour, so I just want to say that you're all geniuses, and we want to know when was your book out, and where can we find out more about you and your goings on. Meg, let's start with you.
Sure. So thanks for joining us. My name is Meg Elison. I am megelison.com. I'm Meg Elison on Twitter. I have a newsletter. I have a Patreon. I have an Instagram that's half full of thirst traps because it's been a really long quarantine. My book came out today, and you can get it wherever books are sold, as well as my 4 other books that I've ground out in the last 5 years. You're welcome.
Yes. Thank you, Meg. Maggie, hi. When was your book out?
My book is out, and you should buy it between 5 and 100 copies. It's excellent fodder for building forts with. You can get that. You can also get my picture book, also an octopus, which is also out. So you could just buy all of those in large quantities, and you can find me on Twitter at EMTEEHALL, which I'll put in the chat because like who's gonna.
Yeah. Drop them in the chat, you guys.
Oh, thank you, Meg.
Welcome, doll.
Right, man, Meg.
Thank you, Somaiya. When was your book out?
So my book was out August 4th. I have a copy all the way across the room, so that's fine. It's called A Court of Lions. And you can find me on Twitter at Somaiya Daud, online at SomaiyaBooks.com, and on Instagram as Somaiya with 3 eyes.
Cool, thank you. If you would drop that in the chat for us, that would be awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Rory, tell us about your book when it come out.
Burn Our Bodies Down came out in July. And Wilder Girls, it came out in paperback in June. The paperback is super fun. It has like a map that they let me do. They like used my little oval sketch, and they were like, "We're gonna make it a little nicer. Is that okay?" Yeah, it's fine. You can just say it's ugly. But it's out in paperback, which has some fun stuff. And yeah, I'm online on Twitter and Instagram at It's Rory Power, and itsrorypower.com is my website, and I will put it in the chat thing. And thank you so much for inviting us, Meg, and thank you so much, Evan, for having us. This has been so lovely to chat with you all.
Well, thank you, Rory. Thank you so much. Adam, tell us about your book.
Yeah, so Surrender Your Sons. This big boy comes out in 2 weeks on September 15th. Like many other titles, but you can pre-order it at my website, adamsassbooks.com, and you can find me on Twitter at the Adam Sass, and I'm doing a launch event in 2 weeks with Garrett Conley, who's the author of Boy Erased. So it's gonna be really cool, and we're doing it through my local bookstore, Main Street Books, so you can register for that soon.
Awesome. Thank you, Adam. And please feel free to drop those links in the chat. And also, if you have one for the launch event, that'd be cool too.
For sure.
Congratulations. Congratulations to all of you guys. I didn't miss anybody, did I, in that last round? Everybody dropped their links and everything in the chat. Awesome. Thank you all so much for joining us. This has been super fun. Meg, congratulations. Find Layla, you guys.
Happy birthday, Meg.
Yes, happy birthday, Meg.
I dropped links for everybody's books. You can order them from Booksmith. We will send them right to your door. You can also pick them up if you're in the neighborhood or passing through. Thank you all. It's nice to be here with you and share this time. I hope we can all meet in person in the near-ish future. Until then, please take care and stay well, be smart and respectful, and hopefully I'll see you again here on Zoom before we see each other in real life. Congratulations to all the authors again on your books, and have a good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, Evan. Thanks, Booksmith.
Thank
Good night.
you.
Thanks, everyone.